Welcome to the Brilliant Soul Gathering. This is a gift offering for parents and caregivers on how to nurture the sacred soul flame within. The intention is to support our listeners with navigating life in these challenging times and to give them inspiration on how to be the light in the darkness. And today I'm really honored to have Rosy Aronson and Jamie Rose on the call. So, Rosy Aronson, PhD, is a visionary artist, author, and spiritual educator with a doctorate in intuitive listening and the creative arts. She is the creator of the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck and a co-creator of the Dream Arc, a rich symbolic journey developed in collaboration with Richard Rudd and the Gene Keys. She is also a co-founder of the Universal Love Curriculum, an evolving global initiative dedicated to helping youth discover the wisdom within. Rosie's international body of work includes books, courses, and creative campaigns that invite people into deeper self-acceptance, creative expression, and sacred community. So great to have you here, Rosie. And Jamie Rose is an intuitive business strategist and Gene Keys guide devoted to the leading edge of listening, adept at striking a balance between established frameworks and emergent possibilities. She is skilled at co-creating environments where innovation flourishes and true magic can unfold. Driven by her deep curiosity about the underlying mechanics of human connection and societal structures, Jamie Rose passionately shares insights into the universal truths that shape and connect us through shared human experience. It's wonderful to have you here, Jamie Rose. What I'll do now, I'll let you just share a little bit more about yourselves and the work that you do.
Just in general. We'll just dive right in and see what happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to start, Rose, or do you want me to start?
You can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So, first of all, I just want to thank you, Nadine, for inviting us to participate in this. And we were just talking before we started recording about like just the perfection of the timing, both for me and Jamie Rose in relation to the collaboration that we're doing, but also in relation to the world and what is needed right now. And that was something that Jamie Rose and I were just talking about as well before we got on the call with you. I cannot think of a time that's more important that we start to focus on the next generation, and how to provide the conditions through which they can thrive, the young ones, including the young ones inside of us, so that we don't lose touch with those inner children. And if we're not in connection with those inner kids, how are we going to connect with the kids outside of us, right? So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you to all the speakers and participants and everybody who's gathering around it and lending their energy to this mission, which has never been more important, if you ask me. I don't even know what to tell you about. You did such a great job with the introduction about like what I'm doing right now. I can say though that you're kind of inviting me in at a very pivotal juncture of my work life, my vocational life, because as you shared, I've been working very intensively alongside Richard and other wonderful people at the Gene Keys for a long time. And Richard and I started collaborating on the Dream Arc about 10 years ago. And so I've been very focused on that for like 7 or 8 years. And just recently, we're kind of transmuting the relationship so that I can join Jamie Rose and our team in focusing on how we can take the essence of the Dream Arc, which really carries the entire transmission of the Gene Keys, and offer it to kids. And I really can't think of a way to bring the Gene Keys to children that is more accessible than through the world of animals and nature and in the intuition and creativity and the imagination. So that is like one of my really big commitments right now. I'm kind of like I just have been at the precipice and I'm taking a big leap into prioritizing this and making it like front and center and what I'm going to be doing. So I could say so much more, but I want to keep this balance. So Rose, maybe you can share a little bit. We can go back and forth, but I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thanks, Rosie. And it's been such an honor to navigate this kind of junction with Rosy as well, and just feeling into kind of this next possibility of spreading the transmission of the gene keys and getting children involved. And um, I come to the project with a background primarily in the legal field. So I worked in corporate law for about a decade, just over a decade, and in that was exposed to all different types of business structure and strategies. And as I began my own kind of personal development journey and had a couple of experiences that kind of attuned me and led me towards the gene keys, which I became absolutely obsessed with and began a very deep self-study around. I was really looking at, how can we bring a lot of balance and teachings from that line of wisdom into, more kind of corporate structures and organizational work. And so really been something that I'm feeling the call to as we go into this kind of personal self-study and this personal work and finding purpose and meaning. And then the natural kind of evolution of that in my own experience has been, and what I've experienced in the community is then wanting to share that and be of service in some way to others. And my story, I'm sure many others who may be listening around education, comes from a very varied background. And, there can be a lot of, for me, there was a lot of experience where I didn't always feel really connected to the curriculum I was learning from, and I didn't really feel seen by the teachers in my classroom. And so I think when I experienced the dream arc and the beauty of the dream arc and the creativity and the animals, and there was this natural, innate, like, this is it. This is what kids need. Like, this needs to be in classrooms. And through the magic of synchronicity, got in touch with Rosy around this. And it's just been something that I've been able to fuel my passion and heart into. And I just can really see how this would serve in a lot of different ways and contexts. And I think we can kind of get into that a little bit later, but just wanted to kind of give a bit of my background there and where I'm coming from and coming into this project. And yeah, thank you, Nadine. This is exciting. I'm very excited to see all of the speakers and presenters, and just such a beautiful initiative. So thank you for having us.
Yes.
And thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I mean, yeah, it's really an honor to have you here and to be able to share what you're doing with others and with communities who are new to this concept of I call it an alternative educational approach. Uh,
Mhm.
it's and I do want to say it is educational because we are the intention is for kids to discover new things. So we're redefining education here. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I share? I just want to share a little bit about that because I'm thinking about my background and even how I got to this moment. And I always went back between like different things, like from just an innate love of creativity, like the creative process. I think of all the spiritual things I've explored over the many years. Creativity, the creative process has probably been my most consistent spiritual practice. And then this desire to be of service, and so I've gone back and forth between creativity and being of service. And then I would create something and say, oh, how can I serve others with this? And then I'd serve others with this, and I'd be like, oh, I'm ready for a new creative impulse to come through. And then there's been also the paradox between going to very conventional educational settings to very alternative educational settings, and going back and forth, constantly integrating the gifts and looking at the shadows of each of those spaces. And another thing, like I'm just thinking of themes, like because I started out studying psychology and social change at a conventional university in the United States. Then I moved to Denmark and I got very involved with breath work, which was connected to giving birth. Actually, we use this breath work process both metaphorically, creatively, but also for women who are giving birth in water. It's very interesting. 8 years I spent there. And then I got into the expressive arts therapy through Jungian education. And then moved back to the States, and then realized that my education over there didn't count because it was Jungian. It was also very shamanic in its essence. and I had to go back to school in the United States and get that master's degree all over again. But I found a very alternative school in California, the California Institute of Integral Studies, where I got to infuse transpersonal psychology and spirituality with more conventional ways of working with people. Anyway, I don't know why I'm saying all these things, but eventually I had a kid, right? Eventually I had my own daughter, and I had gotten all my licensing hours. I had completed 2 master's degrees. I had my drama therapy, my expressive arts therapy. And then I realized that when this baby came out, I would be a different person. And I couldn't, I don't know, I couldn't keep the contract. Like, I knew that something would happen. I'd have to let it go. I had all like 3,000 hours of practicum, and all I needed was to take my licensing exam. And instead, I had a ceremony where I burned all my papers. And then I gave birth. And the first thing I wanted to do, aside from basically like nurse, like 24 hours a day, like creatively, was to write a children's book. Everything changed from there. And then I got into human design. I'm just giving you a little bit of a history here, which was, I don't know, about 20 years ago, which was, I know a lot of people here are interested in psychology, right? So astrology, and human design is another way to really honor the uniqueness of the child, that it's not about molding, it's not about turning that kid into some little like manufactured person who fits all of your values and your ambitions for them, but it's about finding out, well, who are you? What do you want to be? What comes most naturally to you? How can I support your essence to come forward? And it was through human design that I connected with Richard and his teaching, got involved with the Gene Keys, and then eventually got invited to partner with him around the Dream Arc. And one thing I just wanted to say that I went to this psychic reading many, many years ago by this guy named Kevin Ryerson, who was featured in Shirley MacLaine's movie called Out on a Limb. And he told me all kinds of interesting things, like about Egyptian past lives and all that. He channeled some Egyptian guy from 5,000 years ago or whatever. But one thing, he tuned into me and Richard, and he said, Richard came here to write the PhD, to train people in the PhD, but you came here to connect with the younger people, and not just the younger people, but people who are getting started, to take that incredible body of knowledge and make it accessible to anyone. And so that's kind of where I think the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck comes in. That's where the Dream Arc comes in. That's where the Universal Love Curriculum comes in. Is like, how can we take this and make it accessible to anybody? And so I just wanted to say that I've never did that timeline before. So that was kind of interesting to see what came out of my mouth. But I feel that that's a part of my mission. That's part of what my soul came here to do and what I am suited to do. I am not Mr. Brilliant Richard Rudd, who can spout out the most, he knows everything about everything, and it all comes out very poetically and exquisitely. That's not me. I'm more experimental and more creative. And I think that's why Rose and I work so well together. I mean, she has a background, in legalities, and she's super brainy in that regard. But Rose, or Jamie Rose, you are so creative and so sensitive and so intuitive, and such an incredible communicator and collaborator. And it is an incredible honor for me to be working with you. Yeah, I just want to say that you bring so many gifts and passion. Like when Jamie Rose talks about this project, like I get excited about it. I'm like, oh my God, we can really do this. We can make it happen. So that's also the thing. It takes a village, right? It takes a deep collaboration between people who love and respect each other. So I'm so grateful to you, Jamie Rose, and I want to give you some time to share, and then maybe we can talk about some of the other people on our team just to kind of honor them. So yeah, wow, that was a lot.
No, it's perfect. Thanks, Rosie. Yeah, and I think the piece of that really stands out for me too about, just kind of the evolution, and I think the timeline that you're kind of lining up is it speaks to, I think, things begin to emerge when when we're ready for them. Like I really experienced especially in this and this project, learning to lead through this listening. This is new for me. I've never done this before in a work environment or anything like that. And I'm finding it to be the most satisfying, because how often we come to something and we think like we know all the answers, we have all this knowledge, we've done all this study, exactly like you're saying, and then it just kind of like at some point gets burned in the fire or thrown out the window, and it's like life is asking me to do something different here. And having the skill set to trust and to listen to that, I think is what the ULC will really help kids cultivate. Like I think that that's so important, and it's going to be continuously more and more needed in the times to come. It's already needed right now, just that level of internal wisdom and discernment, and trusting that intuition when life says, this is the path that I've been set up for, but something about this just doesn't feel right. And can I trust myself enough to follow the path, even if it doesn't look as conventional or as safe, or can I trust myself to go down that road and see what life is asking of me? And so I think that piece really stood out to me, because you're a beautiful model of that, Rosie. And I love being able to see, and I see it in myself as well. And just the gifts that come from that, and the opportunities, and just be sitting in this room and being part of this soul gathering experience of all these amazing people who generally like probably want very similar things for the planet, and have these kind of dreams and hopes and wishes for our youth. So yeah, thank you for taking on this. It makes perfect sense to me, and I can see why that all came out and came together the way it did, because you really can only teach something when you've embodied it, when you've modeled it, and you've kind of like come to that within yourself. And so I think both of our journeys and the way that they wove and united, like it's because we've been willing to kind of throw the other things out the window and say like, okay, what am I going to listen to today? And that's a lot of what the curriculum I think will impart. So yeah. Beautiful. Do you want to share a little bit like where the curriculum kind of started, and like how, like I think the origin story of that would feel really juicy. Me? You.
Muted. Yeah, I had to unmute myself. And then you can share too how you fit into that origin story, because it wasn't just through me that you found me. Okay, so well, first of all, I've been in the Gene Keys community for a really long time, and I'm not the first person to have the idea that, hey, this is some valuable stuff. This would be great for kids, right? So that there's been, voices in the field for many, many years, from people really wanting us to find ways to bring this transmission forward in a way that would really touch the hearts of children and families and schools and communities. But what happened was about 10 years ago, interestingly, I was doing something called the Face of Love is Universal video campaign, where I had people all over the world hold up a wisdom keeper face and say the face of love is universal in their languages. And so it was like in honor of International Peace Day, 64 days, 64 videos, and then we did a montage about that. But the day that I decided I was going to do it, again, like I had never done anything like that before. It was just this intuition that came, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to see if I can do that. The day I made that decision, I got a little reach out, a little hello from someone on Facebook named Samson Turanawe from Uganda. Never met him before in my life. And he said he represented Universal Love Ministries. So I thought that was really crazy. Like this guy from Uganda reaching out to me the day I'm going to do this Face of Love is Universal, and his organization has universal love in it. I'm like, whoa. So he was the first person I asked if he'd be willing to participate in this thing that I had no idea how I was going to do. And he was like, oh, yes, of course. Now, he and his organization, they had no money, no resources, nothing, but a beloved, trusted network of kids and schools and just people who had really big hearts. And with no resources, he managed to travel all around Western Uganda, was it Eastern Uganda, to various schools, and had hundreds of kids. They printed out like the Wisdom Keeper faces, hundreds of kids dancing and waving. I mean, and then they rented a video camera. It was unbelievable what he sent back to me for his participation. And in the meantime, you know, I have a lot of affluent friends in Europe, and I'd ask them, hey, you want to participate? They're like, oh, sorry, we're on vacation this month. I mean, they had phones. They could have just, I mean, the contrast was just unbelievable. And that was the beginning of our friendship and the beginning of my getting very involved with that organization, the Universal Love Ministries, which became Universal Love Alliance. Samson ended up falling in love with the Gene Keys. I mean, he just gets it. Like, he just totally gets it. He started using it in his clinic, counseling women, domestic violence survivors, parents, taking it to the schools. I made a coloring book. They brought the coloring book to various communities. I mean, he just got very involved. And I got very involved as well and got on the board. And then I guess it was 4 years ago that we started thinking, God, what if, because I was deep in Dream Arc at that time, like, what if we created a curriculum together, you know, based on the Dream Arc? And so it was originally me, Samson, and my sister, Rosy Aronson, who's a multicultural psychologist and yogini and just one of my favorite humans on the planet. And we came together and we started working on it. And, you know, I would give Marilee a lot of information about the Dream Arc, and then she would take, you know, with her structural mind and her genius, she would like craft this incredible curriculum. And then in the meantime, we started, you know, calling in other people. And I do want to honor, like, I have to honor Richard and Sally and Elijah, the original Dream Arc team, who, like, for which none of this would be happening. I mean, they just were phenomenal collaborators and partners for years. And so, yeah, so then we started partnering with Samson's connections with wisdom keepers and elders and educators inside of Uganda who gathered together. So, because we wanted it to be a mutual process where we would ask questions. What is a wisdom keeper to you? What do you think the children in your area need? What are the animals that have special significance where you are? What are the wisdom proverbs from your different regions, and what do they mean to you? Like, so they would give us feedback, and we would ask for them to give feedback. And the idea was already developing that we wanted this to be a global curriculum that would be adaptable to various contexts and cultures. You know, it could be for a school, for a family, it could be for, and I'll let Rose talk more about that, but I just wanted to say that in terms of the history, that's where some of that piloting, that experimentation happened, was in relation to our Ugandan collaborators. And then Matthew got involved, and Orion Ohev got involved. Matthew's my Dream Arc partner. Rose got involved, Jamie Rose, who's been like just like a dream come true for me. And Chris Jepson, he got more involved over the past year and a half. He has been so pivotal in really helping us get a solid foundation of like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What are our core values? Like, we kind of went back to the beginning. And he really helped us get very solid so that when it was time to open up to a larger network, we felt more solid in our core. Am I forgetting anybody, Jamie Rose, that you can know of? I mean, we do have a network. You're going to talk about that includes other people who are coming in. But it's just been, yeah, we've had many phases in the process, many curveballs, lots of listening required, kind of like what Jamie Rose was saying before, in terms of there's the product, like what we're creating, and then there's the process, and really wanting the process to reflect the essence and the core of what it is that we want to offer. And that has been a spiritual practice in its own right, as a group, moving through our own individual changes and our collaborative changes. My changes in relation to the Gene Keys, there have been a lot of things to navigate. And so in a way, we were looking at the curriculum as a child, like the emergent, with its own will, its own destiny, that we need to listen to and follow. And so I think I'll leave it there and let you, Jamie Rose, take over, maybe go more into like what the curriculum is and what our intentions are and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Just Yeah, it just amazes me to hear, like, when I think of the scope and the kind of where we've been, to hear it reflected back, like time, it is a journey of its own unfolding, certainly. So in terms of the actual structure and the living essence of the curriculum, it is really rooted in, like Rosie was already saying, like a lot that has to do with that own inner wisdom keeper. I think that we do all inherently have that can be um, I think in the more traditional educational settings, like often taught to be repressed, and it's not always given that full expression. And so I think what really stands out for me around the ULC is just this honing of one's own creativity and that inner listening, that inner wisdom. How do we come into touch with that? How do we really nurture and develop that in the youth? And the way that the structure is kind of laid out for it to do that is that we look at the education more from like a holistic aspect. So it's not just the mind and the memorization, it's also the heart and it's the spirit and it's, there's and it just feels like it's addressing more aspects of our human nature that we don't necessarily always receive in those kind of traditional formalized settings. So that part really stands out to me as something that's so critical because, as we move through these times of really great challenge and change and just even seeing, just the emergence of AI and how quickly that is kind of, taking the world by storm, I really feel like these types of tools like the curriculum is going to be that place where someone can sit down without a screen and come into themselves and to understand like what is this inner technology that I have before I start interacting with all of that technology out there. How can I really come into contact with who I am in here so that then that becomes a tool and that's not actually my guidance? Like that all then just becomes something that I can facilitate through. And I think that's going to be so important for this generation. Because we see the addictive qualities of social media and we see the addictive qualities of AI and kind of outsourcing a bit of their power to it as well, right? And so it's really just allowing that kind of reclamation of the individual and the individuation process and that full flowering and the development. And what has been really beautiful in this listening and cultivation process that we're doing is to see this, one of the core, one of the gene keys, gene key 44 talks about like the synarchy, the highest expression of teamwork is synarchy, where these naturally emerging, flowering kind of fractals of humanity begin to come together around a very shared vision. And everybody in their own genius just begins to fall into place where they're needed and to be on the like receiving end of that, to see that actually starting to come into fruition through the ULC has been so powerful to see the right people coming into our field at the exact right time that we need a resource and to be generous and willing and offering of their gifts and their skill sets. And it's just every single time I'm so humbled and I'm so blown away. And sometimes it brings me to tears of gratitude because it's just like, it feels like magic, actually feels like magic. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for me of like being a leader through listening and just being willing to say like, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out and to listen to what's coming forward. That's where like the magic breadcrumb kind of begins and the things that seem to fall into place when you're not even expecting it. So um we have a growing impact network of about, I think, 40 people, 45 people now between there who are engaged, showing up to our monthly calls, who want to take this curriculum out into the world, who are just showering support and encouragement and resources and time and energy and attention. And it's just been so beautiful to see. I feel so deeply grateful for our network. So if any of you are out there and you're watching it, you're amazing. We love you. And if you want to be a part, we will definitely share a link with you and how you can get involved and how you can stay in touch with us. Um, yeah, that part to me just feels like, because I think of, I always compare it, and when I'm talking about this network piece too, like I bring this analogy in a lot. Like we really do see kind of the core essence of humanity really strongly after like a natural disaster, right? Like something happens and there's a fire or a flood, and the way that the community always tends to band together around something like that really shows the true essence of who we are at the core. And, I think that really speaks to how powerful and how important community is and those connections are and how we really are interconnected at the end of the day. So I think that I would love to see the ULC be this living, breathing model of a web of interconnectivity where we're not teaching anyone top down. It's very much a co-collaborative process. We're giving you a tool and a resource, and you're taking it into your community and you're feeding back to us what's working and what's available and what you're learning from and what the children are inspired by. And it just becomes this kind of, we're calling it a loving library of tools and resources for other people to then go in and access. So from that, I see like how that kind of holistic development of these different areas will really be able to bridge across ages and across, races and gender and families and school systems. And I think, really being able to have a place where the almost like the just decentralized nature can actually start to take root, where we're not placing any teacher or anything on a pedestal. We're all just here to like learn from each other. And in that kind of supportive environment, that natural genius just begins to flourish. And I think that's really what we need to see is um, cultivated, because we need people in their genius. We need people doing the thing that lights them up. We just need that. So I think I'll pause there because that was quite a rant, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so different from the, hierarchical, how do you say it, the structure that we are used to, and where we start getting used to it in school. Okay, there's the teacher, we have to follow orders and everything, all students are homogenized. And then even at work, okay, there's this job positions, you have to climb the ladder. But what you're inviting here is what you've said, the synarchy, where it's not about um, positions and competitiveness and someone being better than anyone else. No, it's about everybody bringing their own genius and organically collaborating to create this whole end product, which is, as you said, a living, breathing thing by its own. And you know what's really like pushing me towards this is that this allows the uniqueness of the child to flourish and grow, because we're not coming from a place of expectations or projected agendas. No, we're allowing each individual unique self to express. Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Thank you. So true. And thank you so much, Jamie Rose, for what you just shared. That was very touching for me to hear. Yeah, I was gonna say, there's the holistic of the individual, like the mind, how the mind can be used in service of the heart, and then the heart in service of spirit, and all grounded in the body, right? So there's also this is a very embodied education. I mean, education at that, like alternative education, I could say, like you're saying. And then there are three different sections, which is just fully exploring relationship to self, fully exploring other, like how do we relate to the other? And then the third piece is really like, how are we as members of community? And so and all of those pieces are explored through the modules, the categories of the dream arc. This is where the dream arc comes in, right? What does it mean to take a mental leap, to take a leap in belief about oneself, for example, or about someone who's different from us, right? What does it mean to take a leap in the heart, to take a risk, to love, to be open, to be seen, to be vulnerable in relation to someone else? What does it mean to take a spiritual leap, right? And then what does it mean to take a physical leap? To stretch oneself physically in the world. That's just an example. And for people who don't know the dream arc, we've got 12 categories that Richard really intuitively and beautifully like clumped the different of the 192 animals together into these categories. So there are the leapers and the messengers and the healers and the unifiers and the hunters and the warriors, right? So what does it mean to explore through the mind, heart, body, and spirit what it is to be a warrior? Like, what are we here to fight for? What's a cause that's worthy of fighting for? And how do we do that in a way that honors the whole, right? Because right now we're living in such polarized times where we're being given a very unhealthy modeling around what it is to be a warrior, where it's like me and you, us and them, right? So how do we support the kids and ourselves as humans to break through that tendency and to find out, what if I'm a warrior for love? What does that look like? A warrior for unity, what does that look like? And there's so much in the curriculum that brings in the body, the feminine, the creative arts, drama, and also relationships, like sending the kids to their elders of their community to connect, to get wisdom around something that they may be struggling with in their life. And then there's a lot of group processes too. So it's individually strengthening, but it's also group strengthening. It's really about providing the conditions under which unique synergies can emerge in various cultures and settings. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you mentioned at the start that you made it adaptable to different cultures, to different communities. So I'm interested in that. Maybe you can speak just a little bit more to that, so that what I'm thinking is that families of different backgrounds living in different countries, they can still use the process.
Yes. Do you want to speak to that, Tammy Rose, or you want me to give it? And please know, we're still very much in process here. I just want to say that, like, we are still very much listening. And while we want to encourage as much freedom and uniqueness in the way that it sprouts out and is used and applied in many different ways, we're also trying to balance. This is something Jamie Rose can speak to, like structure and honoring the source, and making sure that the tools are simple and clear, and freedom, and how to do that even like legally. I mean, these are things that I'm learning. Like sometimes I say yes to a creative project and then I end up feeling like I have to get 10 degrees in order to become the person who can actually implement and manifest it. So I would say right now we're at a place where we have the full main curriculum written out for 13 years and above, probably, in terms of like the level of understanding. And eventually we're going to want to adapt it too to younger kids, for example. But we're still very much in the process of figuring out what are the simple structures that we can offer, tools, which might include, I'm kind of answering a little bit here, but might include, you know, here is the tool. Here's like a minimum viable version of the curriculum. And here are some questions for parents, like that might help you adapt it to what it is to use this with your kids at home, or to a homeschooling community, or this is for a teacher, or this is for a facilitator at a camp, you know, like a kids camp might want to use it. So we're going to probably come up with different like instruction invitation manuals that will empower different people using it in different contexts. And this is going to take some time for us to kind of figure all that out. And maybe you can talk about this a little bit, Jamie Rose, just to kind of hand you the baton.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is kind of, you know, in when I was saying about synarchy and the way that this kind of like fractal network that's growing around us, is we have so many people who are so immersed in kind of educational or like learning environments already. So I think that that's a really unique advantage that we have, and such a resource and such a gift, because these are the people who are in these different contexts of summer camps or day camps or nature camps or nature education or alternative education models or homeschoolers, parents even, you know, lots of parents. So I think that these people are going to be really instrumental as we kind of cultivate this beta test of like putting this out into the field and then seeing the way that it interacts and then receiving back that feedback. And from what we receive back in the feedback, we can then begin to categorize, okay, like this would be kind of that instruction set for a homeschooler, for example, or for someone in a nature camp. And you know, and this is the beauty of it, because I don't ever see this being complete. Like I really see like it is a living tapestry that could continue to grow and have multiple different uses across different contexts. And so I think, yeah, very early stages in all of that, but the vision is so grand. And now we're just kind of listening to those like next steps of, okay, where we're at right now, how do we get what we currently have into the hands of the people who can then be to give us feedback on that. And so we can cultivate more from that. And then it's just really this like give, take, give, take, give, take. And that model personally just really feels good to my whole body.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And like it sounds wonderful and so much needed right now. And of course, it's not going to be perfect because it's never been done before. It's something new, and because the world is changing so fast, I mean, you will have to be changing with it as well. Yeah. And yeah, I'm really grateful you're bringing this work because it is so needed right now. As you were saying around the changes, the AI, no one knows where we're gonna end up. And for families to have these kind of tools and guidance for them to connect to their own inner wisdom, it will be essential so that they don't get lost in
Yeah,
in what's gonna happen. Yeah.
so true. I was just thinking when you were talking of something that Samson always says is that we don't want to create job seekers. We want to create vocation creators.
Mm, yeah.
I really love that. That's what this is about because whatever has worked over the past, I don't know how many hundreds of years is not going to work anymore. You know, we need to be empowered from the inside to be able to see a need and meet it with our genius, with our love, with our passion, what makes us unique and creative. And so it's such an honor to be participating in a project where we get to explore together what are the conditions under which those kinds of like natural blossoming experiences happen for kids, for human organic children in this world. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Anything else on this before we move on to your free gift?
Oh, yeah. Jamie Rose, did you want to say anything about the network? Anything more about that? About, invitation, about how we imagine that moving forward? I'm just wondering, maybe you've said enough, but I want to give you an opportunity because you're such a
Yeah.
community visionary.
I'm I'm just, I don't know. If anyone watching this is feeling the resonance with that, we would just love to have you in our network to, be a part of just kind of the movement that's being created around this. And if this is I'm assuming if you're watching this and you're involved here and you're involved with Nadine's work, like you are really on that kind of leading edge of like what is emergent in education and how are we, tapping into our kids this way. And so I feel like just being involved, and if you're wanting to stay tuned and connect in with us, we would love to have you 100%. And so we can share the links with Nadine as well to kind of put forward in that, and just stay tuned. There's exciting things coming. I think that's all I can speak to right now.
Perfect. Stay tuned and stay in touch.
Yeah.
And then we can share, if you want, Nadine, our three-part gift. One which includes an actual invitation to get engaged in a super fun way. Should we do that? Okay, so the first is just for anyone who hasn't really explored the dream arc at all. We just want you to know that there's actually a free mini series that's super imaginative and fun that you can explore within your family context, and it's called the Jaguar's Journey. And it's like a whole world of symbols and synchronicity, and Jaguar is your guide. And again, it was inspired by the dream arc. It has 4 parts. It takes you into the jungle and the desert and the ocean and the nighttime. where you get to meet animals, and there are little invitations to have some experiences together. And we just thought that would be really fun to offer the community here, like a nice little way to get a taste of the Dream Arc and to just get your kids involved. And then the second gift that we're offering comes from my work with the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck, which also is a coloring book called the 64 Faces of Awakening coloring book. And so what I did was I created, I think, 3 PDFs that can be colored in. So 3 different wisdom keepers. That's really fun to do as a family. It's fun to put music on in the background and get into a really like Zen space and just enjoy the coloring process and commune with the meaning behind these wisdom keepers that are connected to various Gene Keys archetypes. Okay, so that was another thing. And then the last thing we're like particularly excited to invite you to do is participate in something that we're calling the Universal Love Ripple that came to us through an invitation from 2 of our collaborators, Martin and Kasia, who we love very much, who are like giving out golden tickets for something called the Drop Dead Generous campaign. This is a global campaign, which is really about inspiring generosity in people. And so we kind of came up with our own little thing called the Universal Love Ripple, because love is inside of all of us. And every act of kindness and generosity and creativity just like has a ripple effect. And we're inviting people to include their kids in some kind of act of generosity. And so we have a link also explaining what the whole project is about. And really it's just about documenting. Like you might do this with your grandkid, your niece, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you can get your whole class to do it. We have a little waiver form in there if you need that. It's totally up to you. And we'll just want you to either send us a picture or a little video. And then eventually we're going to like start sending all this out in a big social media campaign in the fall. So if you could get something to us by September 18th, that'd be fantastic. And we might stretch it out a little bit if we need to. Jamie Rose, is there anything else you want to share about this Ripple? It feels very connected to the spirit of the curriculum, but it doesn't require, any teaching or anything like that.
Big time. Yeah, it definitely does. And I think the thread between the 3 offerings, the 3 gifts that we have are so interconnected between the Dream Arc and the Wisdom Keepers and the ULC. Like it just really weaves all of it in together so beautifully. So yeah, we look forward to seeing any submissions that come through and hope you enjoy the gift.
And help us spread the word on that.
Yeah.
Like if we can spread this far and I tell you that the Face of Love is Universal campaign was huge. It had like this huge, very unexpected, very big impact. And I feel like this could be even bigger and it can get the kids involved and be just so fun. And yeah, so please do it yourselves and invite other people, your friends, your community, your family, your schools, the whole shebang. Yeah.
Such a
Wow.
beautiful piece to focus on right now too, I think, right? Just that messages of hope and of love and our connectivity and generosity. Yeah.
Like you
Beautiful.
said, Jamie Rose, like you said about like we get to know what our true nature is, which is so different than what we're fed through the news. Like when there's some kind of a crisis, what do people usually do? They usually love each other and rally together and take care of each other. That most people want a peaceful world. It's
Yeah.
not the story that we're fed, but that's actually the truth. And so this kind of a project really reminds us of who we really are, and what we're capable of. So thank you for reminding us of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. The links for all the gifts will be below this recording. And yeah, you've been so generous, and I am really excited to see where the Universal Love curriculum goes, and really excited to see all the great changes that you're gonna bring to this world. So before we close, any last messages you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I feel like I just gave it.
Mm.
I feel like that for me, I think that's the essence, is remembering who we are. We're so good at our core. You know, there's
Yeah.
something about like being reminded of our innate goodness and our playfulness and our interconnectivity, and that we're all participating in this beautiful emergent love, uh, and just stay grounded in that, like to the extent that we can, because we're being presented with opposite pictures of what humanity really is, and that's feeding us. Like we're getting fed this fear loop. We get caught in this fear feedback loop. So we want to like reverse the feedback loop. So we get into a love feedback loop so that can grow. Yeah, that's what comes to me. Jamie Rose.
Yeah. I think just kind of in change is here, change is coming, change is almost always certain, and that's okay, and that's safe, and that I think the more that we connect with that heart and the humanity of one another, that change seems less frightening and more approachable and exciting and fertile ground for all of us to co-create what we want to see in the world. So really hold to that vision in my heart and just would love to invite everyone else into that reminder as well. And thank you, Nadine. It's been so beautiful. Really grateful to you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
You have such a beautiful energy, Nadine.
Thank you. Thank
Just
you.
so much wisdom in your well, and so much love in your heart. It's very palpable.
Thank you. I'm honored to have you both here.
Mhm.